What's up everyone, and welcome to another video where I am going to be taking you through how to do the Sumo deadlift. Now this is quite a complex exercise to do, so I'm going to start with giving the general instructions of how to do it, followed by some general tips and common mistakes. So how to start doing this exercise. So you want to stand facing the barbell with your feet sort of double than shoulder width apart. Your shins should be a couple of inches away from the bar. In other words, the bar should appear to sort of cut your feet in half, with your toes facing slightly outward to the side, so not completely facing forward. So firstly, you want to squat down to grab the bar while keeping your hips lower than your shoulders. Your hands are going to be in the inside of your legs, and your elbows should be fully extended. Your arms actually stay locked out throughout the entire movement, so in other words, just straight. When you grab the bar, your back should be flat or slightly arched, just that sort of natural Nordic curve, and your hips should be above parallel, creating tension in the hamstrings. This is the starting position. Okay, so you want to be pulling your shoulders back, squeezing your lats together, keeping the back fully engaged, tensing up your core, and then you want to take a deep breath in, lift the bar from the floor by extending the hips and the knees. So in other words, just straightening the legs and pushing the hips forward. Your torso angle should remain constant, so avoid letting your hips rise before your shoulders. Your back should remain straight the entire time. As the bar is being raised, keep it as close to the body as possible. And once the bar passes your knees, drive your hips forward and extend your legs. Finish standing straight up, so you're completely straight. Your upper body is completely straight up to the ceiling, with your shoulders behind the bar. Then with a straight back, return the bar to the starting position. So in regards to your head should remain in a straight line with the back. To do this, sort of pick a point on the floor about 5 to 6 feet ahead of you and just focus on that point. Now, with the sort of ascending phase, as you stand up with the weight, imagine pushing the floor away from you with your feet. Your hips and shoulders should ascend together. During the sort of ascending phase, the bar will travel as close to the shins and legs as possible. And in regards to the lockout, you have reached the finishing point. When you have full extension of the knees, hips and back, the lockout position should position the front part of your shoulders behind the front part of your hips. And with your breathing, take a big deep breath in and hold it in as you prepare to ascend. Exhale as you pass the most difficult stage of the deadlift, and then inhale again at the top and hold your breath before the return. So with the descending, carefully return the bar to the floor by just reversing the techniques used in lifting the weight up. So in regards to your hand grip, there are quite a few different hand grips. Like you can have your palms going over the bar or under the bar, or you can have one going over and one going under. To be honest, like it does depend. Like for me personally, I always have both hands going over the bar. But if you feel like you're sort of losing control of over the bar, like it's sort of rolling off of your hands, then it's good to actually do one hand going over the bar and one hand under the bar. It does minimize that sort of rolling of the bar onto your fingers and you're just losing your grip. So probably the biggest mistake that I see with this exercise is people rounding their back. So it's probably, I would say definitely the biggest deadlifting mistake is allowing your back to round. This can be caused by multiple factors, but I think probably the biggest reason is just a lack of tension on the bar before starting the lift. Before even lifting the weight off the ground, it's important to create that tension. So some people like to call this taking the slack out. Once you're in the starting position, pull the bar up only enough to apply upward pressure, but not enough to actually lift the weight off the ground. So should be like maybe 5 to 10% of the force necessarily to actually lift the weights. This helps just get your muscles activated and ready before they need to actually lift the weight. It also prevents your hips from shooting up early and causing your back to round. I would say probably the only other really big common reason for this is people just not knowing the actual technique. Now, I have had loads of clients where I literally just say to them, oh, try keep your back straight, and then it's fine. They do that. That's very easily. It's actually, in my experience, not to do with, 9 times out of 10, not to do with any sort of posture issues or muscle imbalances or stiffness. It's just because they don't know how to do it properly, and it just feels a bit more natural to them. So just telling someone, keep your back straight, then it's actually fine. If they're really struggling to keep their back straight, then it could be potentially some other reasons. But for most people, it's just trying to keep your back straight. And just, have a little bit of pressure, trying to lift the weight just a little bit, just to actually activate those muscles and squeeze and tense up those areas as much as possible before you really actually try to lift the weight off the ground. So another common mistake is just squatting too much. So just bending your knees too much. It's not a squat, it's a deadlift. Okay, so you don't want to bend your hip, you don't want to get your hips all the way down to your knee level or any lower, because then it's just going to be, all the activation is just going to be in your quads and not really in anything really in the posterior chain. So it's really important that you just go for a quarter squat and you do not get the hips down to the same level as your knees. Anyway, that is it for today. I hope you found this video tutorial on the sumo deadlift useful. If you have any questions, feel free to put in the comments below. If you would also like me to do a tutorial video on any specific exercises, then put it in the comments below.